NATO
The first,
cautioned
what
Trump.
is the cause of the war? The second, who is fighting whom? And we have the right to that. Of course, from an international legal perspective, the Russians are in the wrong. From the perspective of international law, the Ukrainians are right. But from the perspective of the balance of power, it's clear what the Russians are doing. They've even said so. They are going to create a buffer zone, if not from all of Ukraine, then from the part of Ukraine that is close to Russia. They will occupy exactly as much territory as is necessary to prevent Russia from being shelled from there. They've said it, the situation is clear. We were able to buy weapons. Already, 5% of the national total bloc is in NATO. The European Union is taking out enormous loans to buy weapons with that money. If you buy something on credit, it has to pay off. How does a weapon pay off? By using it. So we are caught in an extremely dangerous arms race spiral. This needs to be stopped. This can only be stopped through arms limitation agreements. So the West needs to reach an agreement with the Russians regarding the largest types of weaponry, specifying the quantities each side operates. So an agreement must be reached on armaments. An agreement must be reached on the world's energy supply, because the sanction system that excludes the Russians from energy trade may be good for the Americans, who can then sell their own oil and gas at much higher prices. But in the long run, this will ruin the global economy. An agreement is needed here as well. We need to agree on what will happen with the sanctions against the Russians. Can foreign capital enter Russia? Can we invest there? And if so, in which sectors? Can Russia invest in the economies of other countries? No, it cannot. All of these questions need to be settled. This cannot be resolved through bilateral Ukrainian-Russian military negotiations. To resolve it. And as long as these questions remain unsettled, the war itself will not be resolved either. These two leaders need to reach an agreement with each other on a comprehensive major package, and then there will be peace. I don't consider this to be impossible. Right now, we're in a phase of threats, but it's like a marriage, you know? In the end, we just end up staying together, don't we? I would think that starting from the assumption that the Russians will come and occupy us is an unrealistic presumption, and we shouldn't base our political actions on this, because only mistaken political decisions can result from an unrealistic premise. In my opinion, the Russians are not in a position or condition today to pose a threat to Europe. Ukraine, on the one hand, defend a NATO member state if it is attacked. Since NATO has existed, a NATO member state has never been attacked, and I don't think it will happen, because there is no sane person who would take the risk of getting into a war with all NATO member states at once, including the United States.